Well, hello all. I'm not real sure where to start here, but I've got a warranty issue. Got a lot of premature bearing failure. I've been running these machines for, well, ever since Plugger came out with them. You can see over here, plus I got rid of one of them to the junkyard, but been through these crank machines. This is my third one, and so anyway, getting all this premature bearing failures. And I just replaced the bearings yesterday, and in 1 day of use, you see these bearings are gone. Now the other thing that you see is I drill little holes in the bearings because that increases the grease flow. I've been doing this for years and it works great. So there's one that did not fail, okay, that I've got apart right now. But anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I don't know what's going on, whether the rods are pinching them or what's good. But anyway, okay, so this is the problem. This is what I want warranty on. If we look at this journal right here, this is hard to do with the camera. I'm having a hard time seeing the lens. There's no shoulder here at all for the doggone thrust portion. Here is gone. I mean, it's just, this crankshaft should have never been put on there, see? And then let's come over to this side of it, and we can see that it's all missing here too. See, look, the casting is bad here, and down, well, here, let me try to rotate this thing. Okay, so there we can see the proper sort of thrust surface, but then as we come around, look, it disappears. Okay, the thrust surface is totally gone there, and then it reappears down there. I mean, that's a bad casting. So this thing should have never been put on a machine, assembled and sold to me like that. And what I want is you guys to replace this crankshaft with one that's proper. Okay? And these other ones so far that I've looked at, that's more proper. See? You got thrust surface the whole way around, apparently, on these. Okay? Maybe a little bad spot there, but this is right there. That's unacceptable. Okay? I paid a lot of money for this dang machine, and I've never had one that bad, a crankshaft that bad. Okay? So I do have another crankshaft on hand, but I want a new crankshaft. Okay? And so now I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about some things that you could do a lot better here, because I've been messing with these machines for a long time. The self-locking bolt and nut here on your crank is no good. Okay, so first thing I do is I mark them by peening them, see there, so that they always go back the same direction. Okay, just like you would an engine, an auto engine. You know, you don't reverse your cap. And what I do is I use bolts like this. I ixnay those frickin' silly bolts you guys put in there. And you see, as these come together here, it holds the alignment on the cap. See? Because that portion of splining extends out a little bit more, and that rod cap goes over the top of that. So once this is put together, the alignment is maintained, and then as this wears, you know, as long as you put it back together right, you know, the wear is anyway, things are more even. But when you use that other bolts that you guys use, and these things are the tolerances are really not good. So I found that in a couple of the rods, when I went to put these kind of bolts in there, I've had to peen the holes a little bit so that they'd get a grip. So that just goes to show how crappy the tolerances are on the drilling of these holes. So the other thing that I see is that when they come together, a lot of times this edge doesn't match perfectly. So that could be one reason I'm getting so much premature bearing failure right now. And maybe as they wear and break in more, that'll smooth out. But I'm going to take some sandpaper and I'm going to smooth these out. Okay? So if you guys would use rod bolts, it also makes the maintenance so much easier when you need to change bearing, because you don't have to back this up with a damn wrench getting all greasy. It's way quicker and easier if you use an actual rod bolt like they use in a car. Okay, so, and then once you do that, if everything's put together right, before you guys put these things together, you could make sure that all this stuff's smoothed out and there's no high spots or low spots. And maybe this really sharp edge that's left in the rod, that could be like just smoothed out a little bit. And I think if this was smoothed out a bit at the factory, you know, just slightly rounded, that we may get less bearing failure as well. So these are the bolts that I use that have the spline on them, are these Pioneers. Now unfortunately, I guess Pioneer is saying they're, at least the guy I was getting them from, he says they're not currently making them, but I bet if you were to contact Pioneer and say, hey, I want 1,000 of these things or something, that they would certainly make them for you. So there's your part numbers and all that stuff. And they're for a, I guess, an old Buick engine or a Chrysler. No, they're for an old Chrysler engine, some sort of 4-cylinder Chrysler engine. So these work great. These are the ones with the spline, and they stopped making these ones. So I found these ones from ARP. The light's not good here. Anyway, there's your part number and whatnot there, and you can see it says Chrysler or whatever. And so these are a Wavelock. Now I used a set one. You see, there's a set missing, and I used them, and they work, but they're not quite as good as the spliners. But again, the portion of that Wavelock extends so that it keeps the rod and cap alignment correct, and it doesn't allow that little bit of play and wobble right there. So, you know, I would highly suggest you guys work on this aspect of this machine a little bit. And back to the crankshaft, like I showed you, I want this crankshaft replaced because that is not good. That is not good. Now I haven't got to the rest of it yet, but the thrust surface is just gone from a bad casting. And over on this other side, you can see how bad that is. See, look, you got thrust surface, and then suddenly you got none. And then it slowly comes back a little bit. Now, I haven't taken the rest of these apart yet, so I may find another one just as bad. I don't know, but okay, catch me a while ago, you guys. And the other thing is, look at this. What do you call this? A core depository? When you're plugging, it just stacks up cores on there. Maybe you guys should think about right here putting a little piece of plastic or something that comes up. I'm thinking about doing it, and just put a piece of plastic or something that comes up, you know, yay high, just to not interfere with the crankshaft, and that may prevent all these cores from from piling up on the inside here. It's kind of funny. Damn core depository. So, okay, that's what I'm telling you guys. You guys did do one thing good, and that's for sure. You put on the air tires, and that's super duper. And you put the bigger pulley, which is something that I did out of the gate a long time ago with these dang old pluggers, because they were just a little bit slow, and they never cover the distance that they said they would anyway. But see, I was already on to that a long time ago, and I just got a belt a couple inches longer and put that on there. So kudos for that, you guys. You guys did a good job there. And as you can see on this one, sorry about that. As you can see on this one, see, I got all the rod bolts there that make changing those bearings that you got to do pretty frequently a much easier task. Okay, we know this stuff's only going to last so long, but I usually get 2 years, but that takes 2 sets of rods. So see if you can improve this stuff a little bit. And I don't know what's going on with these damn bearings. Maybe they're just so brittle, you know, that they're falling apart. So you need to work on that. I don't know, you might consider doing like this, like I do too. Maybe having them drilled, because it really makes the grease flow a lot more proper. Alright guys, and oh, by the way, this is somewhat trivial, I guess, at this point, but I want you guys to know I've been working with Plugger ever since they first came out with their cam drive deal, and then got smarter and built the crank. And I worked with a guy named Nathan down there who was sales, and he would talk to the engineering guys. And I am personally responsible for the design of this tine that does not clog up. The first tine they had this type, the top was super abrupt, the exit. And when you'd get into some drier soil and then hit some softer soil, it would not clear. And just in harder soil, this thing would clog up and they'd all pancake up in here really bad. And so I talked to him, you know, because those guys down there weren't too smart. And I said, look, man, you guys got to change this exit so that the cores will flow. And so he made a couple prototypes and he sent them to me. The other prototype was actually cut up even further into the bolt itself section, and it was good, but they both worked like, it was like night and day. So this is what really made the Plugger a success and stop all the complaints about the tines constantly clogging up. Of course, now if you get into a tree root or a rock, and you know, you get a little clog here, you knock that out with a punch. And so anyway, that's what I do, and to make sure I'm always doing effective work. So the other thing I worked with him on was that retractor plate wear, and I asked him if they could just design some little rollers that were on the front side of that retractor plate where the retractor plate wears out, so that the rods would wear out less there. And anyway, that some little wheels on there so that those could be replaced, so the retractor plate, you know, you wouldn't have to totally replace the retractor plate, but you'd have some little wheels that ran against the rod, or little rollers, and so that way that retractor plate would last longer. Anyway, then he took that idea and took it way too far. You know, they just went crazy and made this stupid spring-loaded deal, and anyway, it was not good either. So, but like I say, they weren't too bright down there. So, all right, just a little trivial point there. So please see if you can improve your rod connections like I showed you there prior, with some true like rod type bolts that maintain the alignment, and maybe, you know, put those together in the factory and then sand those down so that everything's smooth and nice. Okay, catch me a while ago once again. And that's me right there. That's who I am. Bye.